Today we are going to take a look at this Evolution R90 cordless jigsaw. Bare unit is around 80 quid, 140 quid-ish with the battery and charger. Let's get it unboxed and we'll see if it's any good. So, usual full disclosure, Evolution have sent me this to have a look at for free. I've already got a jigsaw, but I figured we would have a look at their cordless range because Evolution have quite a lot of cordless tools out now. Nowhere near as many as some of the bigger players out there, but it is a growing range, so it's quite interesting to have a look. Evolution do have some gems that they release every now and then, and they can genuinely be a much cheaper alternative to some of the bigger names out there. So it's worth considering as an option, but as I say, let's see if this is any good. First impressions, feels solid, nice rubberized handle on it. It actually feels surprisingly solid. I wasn't sure if it was going to end up feeling a little bit kind of cheap and plasticky, but it actually feels really nice and very, very comfortable. Anyway, we'll have a look at what everything does very shortly, but first thing I need to do is get it on charge. So obviously, in terms of what you get in the box, we've got the jigsaw itself, we've got the charger. Might as well get that unwrapped. Vacuum attachment thingy. We've got a fence, which we'll have a play with that in a little bit. A whole bunch of multi-material blades, which I'm quite excited about these because, as I've mentioned in previous videos, Evolution blades generally go through almost anything without any problems. So it'll be interesting to see if these are any good. Tools. We've got like a spring. I think that's just for the fence. I presume that spring goes on there to stop it kind of rattling about, but I will double check in the instructions. And then we've got the battery. So this has come with, I think it's a 2 ampere hour battery. So yeah, it's only a smallish battery. Has it got any charge? It's got 2 bars of charge as standard. So we'll charge it up fully, get it all up and running, and then we'll put it through its paces. So interesting to note that we've got a fan in this charger. Quite noisy actually, not that that causes any kind of problem. We've got the flashing green light at the minute, which means it's charging. Once we get a green solid light, it means it's fully charged. And then I presume a red flashing light means the battery's knackered, and a red solid light means there's some kind of temperature issue. I'm not sure. I will double check that. Oh, and interestingly, while it's charging as well, the LEDs on the battery flash to let you know how much charge is in it. What happens if you press a button while it does that? Nothing. That's fine. So that's quite a nice little feature. Okay, we'll leave that to it and come back to it very shortly. There we go, that didn't take long. I didn't time it, but I think it took about an hour before that was fully charged. And I did check, and the temperature, if it's a solid red, that means it's either too hot or too cold. I think it has to be over 5 degrees or below 40 degrees, I think, is your optimal charging temperatures. I do have a pallet to chop up, so we'll put it through its paces on that in a minute, but let's just have a look at it a bit closer, get the blade on and stuff. So as I say, Evolution multi-purpose, multi-material blades. Says it can cut steel, aluminium and wood. Quite a big blade actually. Let's just compare that to my normal jigsaw blades. So the fitting looks identical, but as you can see, much longer blade, very, very sharp. I've never put a blade in this before. Obviously I haven't got the battery on yet. Let's just see, what do you do? I'll just shove it in there and see what happens. You pull that back. Doesn't seem right. What am I doing wrong? It's hitting off that. What? Tell you what, I'm gonna run it without the blade, with pendulum turned down to 1. Presumably that's like pendulum action off, and we'll see if that resets the position of it slightly. It hasn't reset the position of it. Oh, I'm really confused. How do you get the blade in? Take the battery back off. What am I doing wrong? Do you turn? I'm gonna have to check the instructions. Okay, I checked the instructions and I'm none the wiser. It just says pull the blade clamp back, which must be that. Am I just not pushing it in hard enough? Blade clamp's not going back. It's like the whole blade's like angled forwards. What am I doing wrong? It just doesn't feel like it's in properly. Maybe that's it. It doesn't feel like it's going to fall out, but it's really hard pressed up against the blade guard thing. Not the blade guard, but the wheel guide assembly thing. Let's try it. I'm a little bit nervous. Maybe that's just the way it goes. I'll try and show you close up what I'm talking about because it's a little bit odd. So you've got this kind of clamp thing here and that pulls back, you see? So I think you pull that back to get the blade in, which is fine. So here's the blade, pop it in, pull that back. But then you would expect that to return back up to the top position, but it doesn't. It doesn't feel like the blade's going to fall out. I've just never seen a clamp designed like that before. Not sure if you can see what I mean, but you see how that hasn't returned back up to its top position. So it's flush when there's no blade in it, but then when you put the blade in, it's kind of... Is that right? I don't want the blade flying off and going in my face. I guess that's correct. The blade certainly doesn't want to go any further in. Okay, I've done a bit more research and I think I'm just being overly paranoid here. Everything I've looked at seems to suggest that it's normal that that doesn't retract all the way back when the blade is in, so I think that is just it. You literally just plonk it in, pull that back. It's a little bit stiff with it being brand new, I think. But yeah, pull that back and that's literally it. Okay, fair enough. In terms of other controls and things, you've got obviously the pendulum action switch here. I tend to leave that off unless I need it for something. I couldn't find anything in the instructions about where that spring's supposed to go, but I have put it underneath this little screwy bit here for the parallel guide, which I'm not going to use quite yet. So I'll just leave that kind of clamped up so that doesn't fall off. Over on this side, you've got this nice little quick release bar. That's actually really nice. And then you can kind of slide this out. This has various location points built into it for setting the angle, and you basically just pull it forward to get it at whatever angle you want, and then you can pull it back into whichever recess you want. So I'm just going to keep that on 90 degrees for the minute, and then you just lock that back up again. And I'm assuming that hex key is so that you can, I don't know, tighten that up more or something on the bottom if you want to really lock that angle in. We'll leave that for now as well. And then on the saw itself, we've got our safety switch, which can be used left or right-handed. So you just press that and then pull the trigger. So let's chop up a pallet and see if it works. I was hitting the floor there. Really long blades. So interestingly, that was with no pendulum action on at all. Let's pop pendulum on full blast and we'll do the same cut, because that's quite a big deep cut we're doing there. Let's try it with full pendulum. Definitely quicker. I think, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of pendulum unless you desperately need it, because it vibrates the tool around so much it becomes quite uncomfortable to use. Let's just try a sideways, normal kind of... Oh, the base has come loose. Why has it done that? Oh, that hex key on the bottom's come loose. Let me just fix this. So that's something to watch out for there. That whole bottom assembly nearly fell off there while I was using it. And I think it's just because that hex key wasn't particularly tight, but hopefully that won't keep happening. I'll tighten it a bit more this time. That's pretty tight there. Okay, we'll try it again. Feels a bit wobbly, and I'm not entirely sure why it feels so wobbly. Just such a big blade. It's huge. Now, of course, one of the big benefits of Evolution blades is that they should be able to go through metal. So let's put that to the test. I'll just chop the end of this off and we'll clamp it to the bench. See if this works. Don't try this at home, folks. I think I'm missing the nail. Let's go a bit further up. Well, either I've gone through the nails and not noticed, or I've missed the nails. Let's chop this end off. Yep, I went through the nails and didn't even notice. So yeah, I guess that proves that the multi-materialness does work. Let's finish chopping this up. Battery wise, I'm down to 3, and I've nearly chopped up the whole pallet. Tell you, it's got some power to it. think I've kind of sussed out the wobbling issue. I just need to be careful not to force it, not to push it further through the piece of wood than it feels comfortable to go. And then if you just ease back a bit, the wobbling seems to stop. Please don't copy what I'm doing here. Not the right tool for this sort of job, but I just want to kind of demonstrate the battery power of it. So there, it comfortably cut up that pallet. I know it's not exactly the best demonstration in the world of what this jigsaw can do. I'll show you how much battery it's got left in a second after doing that, but a fair few cuts there. Firewood topped up yet again. I don't tend to burn pallet wood very often, by the way, but gets rid of it, doesn't it? And moment of truth, how much power have we got left? We have got 2 bars, so that's not too bad, considering it's only a little 2 ampere hour battery. So honest opinions, I'm pretty happy with this. I think as a kind of non-everyday tool, I'm pleasantly surprised with it. I thought it was going to be much lower quality than it is. It feels really solid, and it comfortably got through all of that pallet wood and still has, as I say, plenty battery left. As a point of comparison, I suppose, like my Makita corded jigsaw is certainly heavier than this, so even with the battery on, this feels a lot lighter than the Makita. The Makita one I've got is 4350 CT. I suppose one thing that's of note with the Makita is that the variable speed control is on the back with a little dial. So if you want to lock it at a low speed, you basically set it on the dial, and then it's always going to stay at that speed no matter. Basically, the Makita has no variability of speed on the trigger. It's either on or off, whereas all of the speed control for the Evolution is on the trigger. So that has its pros and cons. On the plus side, it means that you're not having to fiddle around with a dial if you just want to go kind of slowly, but it does take a bit of finesse to kind of lock it at that speed. You just have to like hope for the best and hold your finger in the right place. But there is a really wide range of speed. I mean, for example, on the Makita, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got technically 5 different speed settings, although I can't remember if that's analog or whether it just switches instantly between them. No, I tell a lie, it is analog. It's not 5 independent speed settings. You can, for example, have it on 2.5. So, okay, that makes no difference. Stop yabbering on about that. So yeah, I suppose if you want to lock it at a speed, well, you can't do that. You just have to hold your finger on the trigger in the right position. And as I say, the situations where that's useful, where if you're going through a piece of wood and you just want to give it a bit of extra power, you can do that straight from the trigger. But there are situations as well where you just permanently want it locked at a lower speed, which obviously you can't do. Other than that, what else can we talk about? We've got the LED light, decently bright light on it as well. It is just a brushed motor, not a brushless motor, but you know, for a 70 quid tool, 70 quid bare, I don't think you're going to be getting brushless motors at that kind of price point. The pendulum action, if you're not aware, by the way, pendulum action, what it does is, if you imagine, right, imagine that's your jigsaw blade, and imagine normally it's just kind of going up and down like that. Well, pendulum action also gives it a kind of backwards, forwards oscillation as well, and that's controlled by the arm with the guide bearing on it at the back there. So basically that starts rocking backwards and forwards, and it makes the saw blade do that while it's going up and down. And what it does is it gives you a much faster, much more aggressive cut, but you don't have anywhere near the amount of finesse you've got with pendulum action switched off. So generally, as I say, normally I leave it with pendulum action switched off unless I particularly need it. I've had no further problems with the base coming loose, so I think it's probably just worthwhile double checking that that bolt on the bottom there is tight before you use it, because for mine, out of the box, it was a little bit loose, and I think it's just shook itself free while using the tool. The parallel guide, really easy to use. So as I say, you've got that little thumb screw thing, and you just shove that in through that, and you can put it in either way, that way or that way. Shove it through. And then if you imagine you wanted to cut this bench in half, you would just have the parallel guide set like that. And it's basically just a fence so that you can do a nice straight cut using that edge as kind of a reference point. Not something I use very often on a jigsaw, to be honest. And also dust extraction, really simple. That just goes up its jacksy like that. You just shove it in, there we go. And you connect up your dust hose to that end. On the whole though, I'm quite impressed with that. Nice little cordless jigsaw, and great at that kind of price point. Is it as good as my Makita? It's difficult to say. It doesn't feel like it's got the finesse that the Makita has, but this is a much more expensive jigsaw, and at the end of the day, for something just for general everyday workshop use, I think this is absolutely fine. For most people, this will be kind of a go-to tool that you have hanging up in the workshop. As per usual, I will continue using it, and I will report back and let you know how things go with it. One little point, one niggly point, I suppose, is that it didn't come with any kind of base guard, which the Makita does come with a base guard that you can unclip, basically. And then that gets you to the kind of the sole plate where you've got the screws and things that attach onto the aluminium section of the base. But that's all protected with this base guard. It would be nice if the Evolution had a base guard, because I can see over time these screws are going to get bashed up, and if they get bashed up, you're not going to be able to take this bottom plate off. So it would be nice. I don't know. I'm surprised it didn't come with one. It almost seems designed to come with one. So I suppose if there was anything I could ask to be added on the future versions, it would be nice to have a base guard on it. Other than that, gets the thumbs up. I'm quite impressed. Obviously, if you've been using one for a while, post down in the comments and let everyone know what your experiences are, because I'd rather be honest about it. I'm not going to tell you it's a decent tool if I don't think it's a decent tool. Certainly for the money, I've seen a lot worse on the market. If I have any long-term issues with it, I will absolutely let you guys know. Anyway, we'll leave it there for today. As per usual, folks, look after each other, be nice to one another, and we shall see you next time. Tatty bye.